Hello, guys. Welcome back to Southern Gal True Crime. I hope everybody's doing well today. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for tuning in. I have a very special case that I want to bring to you today. I'd actually had it saved in my web browser for a while, and when I was going down through and looking for something to do a video on, an extra video, since I didn't do any videos last week. So I wanted to make up for that. I came across this case, and I started researching it a little bit more, and I found out a very interesting theory about it. Apparently, this is a case from 1961 from Tacoma, Washington, and it is the Marie Burr case. Some of you may have heard of it. I'd heard the name before just in doing a research for content. But the more I researched it, I found that there's a very interesting theory that Marie Burr possibly could have been a victim of a very young Ted Bundy. Now, when she disappeared and she has never been found, her body remains have never been found, Ted Bundy would have been 14 years old at the time. And I found, when I've looked at a lot of infamous or just serial offenders in general, that some of them do start out at a very young age. And it is not until they accumulate a body count, for lack of a better word, and then they go back and the offender is caught or comes on the radar of law enforcement, that they go back and start looking into the past. And sometimes they do find victims from when the offender was very young, preteen, teen, adolescent. So I want to bring you this case today because I thought it was just very fascinating. And I was kind of skeptical at first, but there are some facts to this case that lend to the possibility that Marie could have been one of his first victims, or maybe his very first victim when he was very young. But I will bring you all the information that I have on it, and I will let you make your own decision about whether you think Ted Bundy could have been involved in Marie's disappearance. But first, let me get my slides going up here. All right. But first, at the beginning of all my videos or live streams, I always feature a current missing person, because that is the heart and soul of my channel, is bringing you missing persons cases, unsolved cold cases that don't get a lot of attention. So I actually have two current missing persons to bring you today, and this information comes from the Morgan Nick Foundation Facebook page. Excuse me. And the first missing person is Exon Zuniga. He went missing from Jacksonville, Arkansas on November 27th of 1921. So it's been over 2 years this young man has been missing. So I really wanted to get this information out to you. His current age would be 17, so he would have been around 14 or 15 when he went missing. He is a Hispanic Latino male, 5'8", 110 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He was last seen in Jacksonville, Arkansas. So if you have any information regarding Exon or his disappearance or possible whereabouts, please contact the Jacksonville Police Department at 501-982-3191. And I will put the link to this information in the description box. So I implore you, please share it anywhere and everywhere you can to help get this information out to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. And I did also include a second missing person, Jaden Littleton, because apparently I featured her a few months ago, but and she was found then and returned safely home. but apparently she has run away again. So this is at least the second time this young lady has run away. I checked this morning, the Facebook post. She's still missing. Nobody has seen her or heard from her. Her family obviously is very worried about her. So I wanted to bring her case to you, or her information to you again. So it's Jaden Littleton. This current date she went missing was November 18th of this year, from Tawnytown, Arkansas. She's only 15 years old. She's a white female, 5'3", 140 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. She was last seen wearing a pink long sleeve shirt and shorts with slippers. So if you have any information about Jaden, her whereabouts, please contact the Tawnytown Police Department at 479-361-9168. And once again, I will also link this information in the description box. So please share this information as well. All right, now we will get to our case. Marie Burr. Like I said, it took, this case is from 1961, from Tacoma, Washington. And the more I researched it, the more I looked into it, I came across this theory of, was she a victim of a young Ted Bundy? Ted Bundy. I can't talk today. I can't use my words today. And like I said, the more I read the facts of the case, and he was in the area at the time that Marie disappeared. It just kind of all came together. Now, I'm not saying that she was a victim for sure, because I don't know. I wasn't there. But there's some very compelling information. So she was born on December 14th, 1952. She disappeared on August 31st, 1961, from Tacoma, Washington. Her disappearance, when it happened, it made national headlines, and it received renewed attention, it says, when it was theorized, now this is just a theory, that serial offender Ted Bundy, who did live in Tacoma as a teenager at the time, might have been responsible for her abduction. Now, we all know that in a lot of cases, especially when a child disappears, they're never found, the longer it goes on, the parents, and you can't blame the parents just want to know what happened to their child. And I don't know exactly who brought up this theory that Ted Bundy could have abducted Marie. But regardless of where it came from, this theory came up. And sometimes parents just want to grasp at anything they can to, in their hearts and their minds, try to bring a resolution or find out what happened to their child, whether it be true or not. And just breaks my heart with these parents who lose children or loved ones. Of course, you want to know what happened to them, where they're at. Even if you, worst case scenario, that you can't bring them home alive, at least you want to know what happened to them. Find their remains and bring them home, give them a proper burial, and try to get some closure. So I don't know if this is a case of, it could be a legitimate possibility that Ted Bundy has something to do with it, or just parents and or police just wanting to, solve the case and say, Ted Bundy's a possibility. But either way, like I said, I will bring you the information that I came across, and I'll let you make your own decision. So Marie was born, like I said, on December 14th, 1952 in Del Norte County, California. She was born into a Roman Catholic family. She was the first of 4 children. She had 2 younger sisters, Julie and Mary. She had 1 younger brother, Gregory. Her parents were Donald and Beverly Burr. And prior to her disappearance, the family had moved into a house in the North End neighborhood of Tacoma. And I don't know how long they had been living in Tacoma before she had disappeared. It didn't give that information. So on the evening of August 30th, 1961, Anne Marie and her 3 siblings were sent to bed around 8 p.m. that night. And apparently earlier that evening, Anne Marie had eaten dinner at the nearby home of a friend. Anne Marie and her sister, now pay attention, because to me this is very important when it comes to how she was kidnapped, and regardless if it was Bundy or another offender, about where the position and where everybody, because she was taken from her house. It wasn't like she was outside in the middle of the day and was taken off the street. She was actually, somebody came into the house and took her out of the house. So Anne Marie and her sister Mary, who was 3 years old at the time, shared an upstairs bedroom. Her younger brother, she was 8 years old. She was the oldest. Her younger brother Gregory, who was 5 at the time, and her younger sister Julie, who was 7, shared a bedroom in the basement. And if I remember correctly, the parents, so this was a 2-story house with a basement. And if I remember correctly, and it might be in one of the next slides, the parents' bedroom was on the first floor, the main floor. So you have Anne Marie and her 3-year-old sister sleeping in a bedroom in the upstairs, second floor. You have the parents' bedroom. They were sleeping on the first floor, the main floor of the house. And then you have her other brother, who was 5, and her other sister, who was 7, who were sleeping in the bedroom in the basement. So all 3 floors were occupied at the time that this offender came in and took Anne Marie. At some point during the evening, several members of the house reported hearing that their pet Cocker Spaniel was barking. It doesn't give an exact time, but it just says sometime during the evening, they either all or some of the family members heard the dog barking. Now, I don't have a dog. Don't get me wrong. I like dogs. I like all critters. I have a cat. But some dogs will just yap at any little noise, regardless if they could hear a sound outside, or some just innocuous innocent sound in the house, and they'll yap yap yap. I've never been around a lot of Cocker Spaniels, so I don't know how high strung they are, or if they would be the kind of dog that barked at any little noise. If anybody out there knows, please leave me a comment and let me know. But to me, this is important because either the dog was just a yappy dog who barked at any little noise, or the dog could have heard the offender, the intruder, come into the house and started barking to alert the family. That's the 2 possibilities I could come up with on that. But like I said, I don't know that much about dogs, especially Cocker Spaniels. I know Chihuahuas are very yappy. They'll yap at anything. But regardless, some members of the family heard the dog barking. Apparently, they didn't think anything of it. They went back to sleep. And also in the early morning hours, Anne Marie did wake her parents up in their first floor bedroom, complaining that Mary, her younger sister, was crying. And at the time, Mary had apparently broken her arm, had a cast on it. So maybe I'm assuming that her arm was, she was 3 years old too. Maybe her arm was hurting and she was crying. And so Anne Marie went to wake her parents up, or at least wake her mother up, to come check on Mary. Beverly, which is the mother, she recalled, soothing Mary, calming her down, sending both girls back to bed, though she did not remember what time that this occurred. So we don't really have according to this information that I found, can't really build a timeline of when all these occurrences happened and what time, a close approximation of a time that Anne-Marie went missing from the house. So she sent the girls back to bed, didn't know what time it was. Assumingly she went back to bed. Everything was quiet after that. Until at about 5:30 a.m. in the morning, Beverly, the mom, realized that Anne-Marie was missing when they found Mary, who again was crying. So I'm going to go on the assumption that they heard the mother, Beverly, heard Mary crying, went to check on her, and that's when she discovered that Anne-Marie was missing. Because she found Mary alone in the bedroom that she and Anne-Marie shared. And this picture on the left is an actual picture of the bed that Anne-Marie disappeared from. So after they found her missing from her bedroom, of course, they searched the house. The front door of the home, and this is also important to note, the front door of the home, which had been locked, was slightly ajar, and there was a small window in the living room that was open. They checked outside, and inside, grass from the front lawn was found inside the house. And outside the house, an overturned bench was discovered against the side of the home. So just theorizing and going on what I have learned from watching other professionals who know what they're doing. My assumption would be that the intruder, the offender, could possibly have come in through the window, because outside they said that there was this bench that was overturned. So my scenario in my head that I envision is the intruder, the offender, used this bench to come, and the window obviously would have had most likely been unlocked unless it was locked and the offender, Jimmy, did open somehow. Came in through the window somehow, and now is unknown because we don't know for sure who the offender is. If this offender, this intruder, was familiar with the house, familiar with the family, that's why I mentioned where everybody was sleeping. So if he came in through the window, which led, I'm assuming, into the ground level of the house, the parents' bedroom was assumably a room like maybe off of the living room. So he would have had to come in through the window. This is my theory. Come in through the window, made it past, through the ground floor without waking the parents. Once again, without knowing, of course, who the offender was and if they were familiar with the house, if they knew the house, if they knew the family. If they went down, if they even knew that there was a basement, did they go down to the basement and see the younger brother and the younger sister in the basement? Did not take them. Made their way back up to the main floor of the house, went upstairs, found Anne-Marie and Mary's bedroom, and decided that they were going to take Anne-Marie. That is just my theory. Like I said, we don't know, with the limited information we have, we don't know if this person went in specifically looking for Anne-Marie or just looking for, because there were 5 children in the house that could have been taken. But for some reason, Anne-Marie was taken. So after the offender, either if Marie was the target, Anne Marie was the target that was taken. He takes Anne Marie somehow without waking her up, or she did not make any noise to alert either the sister that was in the bedroom, which the sister that was in the bedroom with her was only 3 years old. So I don't know how much help that would be with determining if she would have cried out if she saw somebody. She could have possibly thought it was her father or mother coming in to maybe check on her or Anne Marie. Also, the intruder might not have went down to the basement, because the children in the basement were older. They were 7 and 5. So they would have been old enough to know, assumably, that this was a stranger in their house, and they most likely would have cried out or alerted their parents in some way that something was wrong. So somehow this intruder, this offender, got Anne Marie, took her from her bedroom, assumably went back down the stairs. It says that the front door, which had been locked, was slightly ajar. It just makes sense that the easiest way to get out of the house with a child would just be go out the front door. You unlock it, you go out, you maybe pull it too, and you're gone. Now that's just my theory. Just going off the fact that I've always read and heard that you follow the path of least resistance, and just going out the front door, unlocking it, going out will be the easiest way out, the path of least resistance. And unknown, if the offender, you would assume that he or she would have a car or some kind of transportation parked somewhere, maybe not in front of the house, because that would bring attention, obviously, to the car, but maybe parked a block down or somewhere where it wouldn't be seen. Took Anne Marie, put her in the car, and took off. And she was never seen again. Now, this is just all my theory. I don't know. There are a lot of you out there that are smarter than me. So if you have any ideas, please leave them in the comments. I would love to hear your theories. So upon searching, so of course, when Anne Marie was discovered missing, the authorities were called. They searched the home. And upon searching the home, law enforcement, now this is a fact that kind of confuses me about the theory that I have about them coming in through the window, because law enforcement noticed a table of figurines. And I'm assuming it would be like little porcelain figurines that were popular back then, and they're still popular today. They found a table of figurines beside the open living room window, which was undisturbed. And this was despite the appearance that someone had entered the house through the window. It would be helpful to know, to me, how close, and I'm assuming that they were on like a little end table or some kind of display, how close were the figurines to the window? Were they right up against the window? Were they inches away, maybe a foot away? That would be helpful in determining whether or not somebody could have come in through this window without disturbing or knocking over these figurines. Because if somebody had come in through the window and accidentally knocked the figurines, they would have went everywhere, broke, made a crashing sound, and you would think that would wake up at least the parents in the house, because excuse me, because their bedroom was on the first floor close to the living room. So either they were far enough away where if the intruder came in through the window, that they were able to get in without disturbing them, or either that or they were very dexterous and managed to get in and maneuver around without disturbing or knocking over these figurines. Lost my place. A faint footprint was found near the overturned bench outside. Law enforcement estimated that the shoe that made the print was likely a kid's sneaker, size 6 or 7. So a small, because I'm an adult and I wear a size 7.5. But there are children or adolescents that have small feet. None of Anne-Marie's clothing or other personal items were missing from the home. It was determined that Anne-Marie had left the residence wearing only her blue nightgown and also wearing a chain necklace with an engraved metal, Jesus and Mary, a medallion, and an identification tag, apparently with her name on it, and a medal of St. Christopher. So nothing else. None of her other clothes were taken or put on her. She was just basically taken with what she was wearing when she went to bed, when she was stolen from her bed, presumably. So after they searched the house, they started, of course, searching for Anne-Marie outside the house. Soldiers from Fort Lewis, as well as 50 National Guardsmen from Camp Murray, aided local police in the search for Anne-Marie. By 11 p.m., over 75 square blocks surrounding the residence had been searched, including wooded areas. No signs of Anne-Marie were found. Dive teams searched Commencement Bay for sign of Anne-Marie. Nothing was found. Due to the lack of concrete evidence indicating an abduction had occurred, the FBI only assisted the case on a standby basis. Now, to me, this does not make any sense that an 8-year-old girl is basically taken in the middle of the night from her home by an intruder, and they do not consider this an abduction. The only reasoning I can think of why they would not consider this an abduction is maybe they thought Anne-Marie, maybe she was a sleepwalker. She could have woken up in the middle of the night, wandered out of the house, wandered away, and became lost. That is the only explanation or theory I can come up with, was why they did not consider this an abduction. It would be helpful to know, we will go to victimology, whether or not Anne-Marie was a sleepwalker, or if she had before previously woken up and wandered out of the house and had been found and brought back home. But we don't know that information, so we cannot make that assumption. But be that as it may, a report submitted in the days following Anne-Marie's disappearance came from neighbors who said that they heard screaming emanating from a vehicle with California license plates on the morning that Anne-Marie went missing. However, when the driver of this vehicle was located, he or she explained that the noise had merely emanated from the radio and was mistaken for screaming. So that would make sense. In the 60s, rock and roll was just getting started. So, if today in, 80s, 90s, 2000s, you do have music that does have a lot of screaming in it. Now, I do listen to 1960s music, but it is possible that the radio was mistaken for screaming. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that. And I'm sure they questioned the driver of this car extensively and didn't find any evidence to lead them to believe that he or she had anything to do with Anne-Marie's disappearance. On September 8th of 1961, Donald and Beverly, who were the parents, did voluntarily take polygraph examinations in response to rumors that they had withheld information in Anne-Marie's disappearance. Once again, I could not find any information about why authorities would believe that they did withhold information. But be that as it may, they took the polygraph test and they passed them. They were both found to be truthful in their responses. The following day, Anne-Marie's maternal grandmother, Mrs. Roy Leach, did post a $1,000 reward for information leading to the discovery of her granddaughter, Anne-Marie. And then the reward was ultimately increased to $5,000 after allocation of additional funds. So people apparently donated, which happens in a lot of kidnapping cases. People donate, give money um, for a reward fund. So law enforcement did do their due diligence. Over 1,500 persons were interviewed within the first 12 days after Anne Marie disappeared. And they did look at a couple of people a little closer than others. On October 31st of 1961, law enforcement interviewed 31-year-old Hugh Byon Morse. Apparently, he was an ex-Marine, and he was a suspect in the 1959 homicide of 9-year-old Candy Rogers in Spokane, Washington. So, yes, that would put him a little bit higher on the list of people to be interviewed, in my opinion. Also in June of 1962, an employee at a service station in Portage La Prairie, which is in Manitoba, Canada, which apparently is just right across the border from Grand Forks, North Dakota, told law enforcement that he saw a girl who appeared to be Anne Marie, accompanied by a man and a woman who, quote, spoke a little too sharply to be her parents. And he said the employee claimed that this girl mentioned that she was from Tacoma. Now, anybody who is a parent, I myself am not a parent. I don't have my own children, but I've helped raise numerous nieces and nephews and friends' kids. When they say that this man and woman spoke a little too sharply to be her parents, anybody who has kids knows that if they're acting out or acting up, you're probably going to speak a little bit sharply to them, even, if you are their parents. So I don't know why this person would think that they spoke a little too sharply to be their parents, but be that as it may, I'm assuming the authorities looked into it, nothing came of it, and they just put it in their files. Also, fast forwarding to the winter of 1964, law enforcement attempted to arrest Ralph Everett Larkey in Portland, Oregon. Larkey had been accused of kidnapping Galen Stewart, and he was considered a possible suspect in Anne Marie's disappearance. But as it happens, he took his own life before police were able to apprehend him. So, another dead end, you would say. So, once again, filed away, taken care of. If he did have anything to do with Anne Marie's disappearance, he took it with him when he decided to take his own life. So, now we get to Ted Bundy. After Bundy was apprehended in 1978, he became a suspect in Anne Marie's disappearance when law enforcement discovered that he was a resident of Tacoma at the time of her disappearance. And at that time, he would have been 14 years old. At the time Anne Marie disappeared, Bundy worked as a paper boy, and he delivered newspaper in the Burrs neighborhood. And it says that with his paper delivery route crossing near the Burrs family residence, so he would have known the neighborhood, could have possibly delivered papers to the Burr house. Possible he could have seen Anne Marie out in the yard playing at some point when he was delivering papers, although usually papers are delivered very early in the morning. But he also had a great uncle that he often visited who taught music at the University of Puget Sound, which was located several blocks from the Burr home. And it says that Bundy would have crossed very near to the house where Anne Marie disappeared, as he had to pass 6th Avenue and North 5th Streets where the office manager for the paper route was. So they're saying, from what I gather, that Bundy would have had to, if he was walking, assumably be walking. If he was walking to this office manager's house, he would have went by the Burr residence, and possibly that could have been, maybe he passed by, had seen Anne Marie out in the yard playing at some point. Now, this is just all theory on my part. And whoever came up with this theory that he could, Anne Marie could have been one of his first, one of his, possibly one of his first victims, or his first victim at 14 years old. So he was in the area at the time Anne Marie disappeared. He had a paper route that was very near the Burr home, possibly could have delivered papers to the home. His uncle worked at the University of Puget Sound, which was not very far from the Burr house, and that he also had to basically walk past the Burr home on his way to the office of the paper route that he worked. So far, those are the evidence, or not evidence, but the circumstances we have that possibly link him to Anne Marie's case. The unknown size 6 shoe imprint found outside the window by the overturned bench was consistent with the teenage perpetrator. When questioned, and this picture on the left is a picture of Ted Bundy at 15 years old. So when questioned in Anne Marie's disappearance, Bundy told law enforcement that, quote, he wouldn't have hurt a little girl. Of course, he denied any involvement in Anne Marie's disappearance. But in 1987, he confided to author Robert Keppel. I'm sure anybody who follows true crime knows that name. He told Robert Keppel that there were, quote, some homicides, I have to be careful what words I use, that he would never talk about because they were committed, quote, too close to home, too close to family, or involved victims who were very young. And of course, Anne Marie's disappearance matched all three of these categories. So that is yet another 3 more reasons that this theory has come about that Ted Bundy could possibly have had something to do with Anne Marie's disappearance. But then again, we all know that 99.99% of serial offenders are psychopaths, they're compulsive liars, and he could have just been making this up to play games. So we don't know for sure. I've always heard professional profilers and any professionals who have dealt with serial offenders, they always say basically don't trust anything that they say. So we'll take that with a grain of salt, but it is compelling, in my opinion, that he would say he would never talk about any crimes that were too close to family, too close to home, or involved victims who were very young. But on the other hand, okay, we'll get to that in a minute. Anne Marie's parents told the media at some point that they believed that their daughter, that Anne Marie's body had been buried in excavation sites on the UPS campus where construction had been underway in 1961 when Anne Marie disappeared. However, they claimed that neither they nor Anne Marie knew Ted Bundy. So apparently they claimed they had no idea that they knew who Ted Bundy was, that he was even in the area. They'd never come cross paths with him in any way, shape, or fashion. So apparently they were not aware of Ted Bundy until, like I said, he was arrested in, I believe it was 78, and he was questioned and became a possible person of interest or suspect in Emery's disappearance. But after this possible Bundy connection came to light, Beverly, the mother, stated that she did exchange letters with Ted Bundy while he was on death row. And according to her, allegedly, he said, according to her, she said that he avoided when he was asked about his possible involvement with Anne-Marie's disappearance. She said he avoided the real questions and instead he talked about the Green River crimes and world events. And in one correspondence, he insisted that in 1961 he was, quote, a normal 14-year-old boy. I did not wander the streets late at night. I did not steal cars. I had absolutely no desire to harm anyone. And once again, this is coming from a known serial offender, possible psychopath, possible liar. So we'll take it with a grain of salt. And at some point, Donald, Anne-Marie's father, told crime writer Ann Rule that he believed that he saw Ted Bundy in the ditch on the UPS, University of Puget Sound campus the morning of his daughter's disappearance. So, I take this with a grain of salt too, just for the fact that in the previous slide, Beverly, the mother, claimed that neither she or the family or Anne-Marie even knew who Ted Bundy was. So if they did not know who Ted Bundy was, how would he know or think that this was Ted Bundy that he thought he saw in the ditch on the campus the morning that Anne-Marie disappeared? The only reason I can think of that he would think that this was Ted Bundy that he saw was that he did see somebody in this ditch on the campus on the morning she disappeared. At the time, he didn't know who Bundy was. But in the years later, after Ted Bundy was brought into the equation, when he saw pictures of Ted Bundy, even though Bundy would have looked a lot different, because remember, 1961, Bundy was only 14 years old. 1978, he was much older, looked much different. So even that, I have to question about why the father was so adamant or made the statement that he believed he saw Bundy in the ditch on the morning of the disappearance. So I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on that statement. To see if I'm missing something or if I'm way off base on my thinking. Because I know there are a lot of you out there who are a lot smarter than I am when it comes to reasoning out these things. So please do let me know in the comments what you think about this dad making the statement that he believes he saw Ted Bundy in the area. In 2011, contact evidence from Anne-Marie from the crime scene was compared to DNA samples of Ted Bundy, but testing failed to link him to the Burr residence. So apparently they did find DNA at the residence back in 1961. Of course, back in 61, they absolutely did not have the technology that we do even in 2011 and today to be able to do any kind of test. About the only thing they could do, if I remember correctly, is blood typing. If it was blood. Now, we don't know if it was blood or other bodily fluids. Since Anne-Marie's body has never been found, it is unknown if she was SA'd or not. but it could be whoever the intruder was could have before he, whoever the intruder offender was, before he took Anne-Marie from her bedroom, could have pleasured himself, for lack of a better term, and left semen samples. Who knows? Whatever, regardless, whatever the DNA was, due to the fact that a full DNA profile could not be produced, they were never able to link Ted Bundy to the scene, to the house. So, even though Ted Bundy claimed that he would never hurt a child, his last victim, or his last known victim, Kimberly Leach, was only 12 years old when he took her life. So, yes, he was perfectly capable and willing to hurt a child. So we have to take that into another thing to take into consideration when we are trying to figure out or make our decision about whether Marie Burr was a victim of Ted Bundy, because Marie was 8 years old when she disappeared. So we got that to consider. Because 8 and 12 may seem like a big difference, but it's only a 4-year difference. 12 years old is still a child, in my opinion. Still a child. To me, 17, 18-year-olds are still children. Because it's been proven that adolescents or people's personalities and brain development is not fully developed until I think it said somewhere in their 20s. So to me, 17, 18, 19 years old, I still consider that basically children. But that's just my opinion. So like I said, we have Kimberly Leach, who was a known victim of Ted Bundy, who was only 12 years old. So we can take his statement, in my opinion, that he would never hurt a child, and throw it out the window. So with in the aftermath of Anne-Marie's disappearance, very sad. In July of 1963, her parents actually, this was 2 years after Anne-Marie disappeared, her parents actually adopted an infant little girl that named Laura. Her parents held a memorial service for Anne-Marie in 1999. The father, Donald Burr, passed away in 2003 at age 77, presumably of natural causes. The mother, Beverly, passed away of congestive heart failure in September of 2008 at her residence in Tacoma. So once again, aside from the victim, Anne-Marie, the parents and her brothers and sisters are the most important part of this case. I feel so bad for them. They passed away not ever knowing what happened to Anne-Marie. They just had these theories to go on that possibly Ted Bundy could have been involved, but they never, excuse me, they never found out for sure who actually killed the daughter, whether it was Ted Bundy or another offender. So it's just, and I didn't do a lot of research. I don't know if Anne-Marie's other siblings are still alive. You would assume they would be. I'll have to check into that and try to look them up and see if they're still alive. But like I said, my heart and prayers, thoughts and prayers, heart go out to Anne-Marie's mother, father, and her siblings for losing their loved one. So, like I said, the heart of all these cases is the victim. So we have little Anne-Marie Burr, beautiful young child, just 8 years old when she was taken from this earth. I say regardless if it was Bundy or another offender, some monster came in, stole her from her house, and ended her young life, presumably, although her remains have never been found. So hopefully one day somebody may remember something. It's unknown if, I'm assuming this case is still an open case, even though it's a very, 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 very cold case. But hopefully there are still some dedicated investigators or retired cold case detectives that are still looking into this case, and hopefully at some point we can get some resolution or some answers for little Anne Marie. All right, I think that is all I have for you. If you found this video informative or interesting, please give it a thumbs up. It'd be very much appreciated. Please like, share, comment on it. The more, for small channels like mine, the more like, shares, and comments my videos get, the more it's pushed out to more people. And that's the main heart of my channel, is to get the information out about these missing persons and these cold cases, to keep their name out there, so these victims are never forgotten, especially these very old cases like Anne Marie's, happened in 1961, still not solved. So I just implore you, please like it, share it, comment on it, share it in any true crime groups you may be in, with any friends and family members that are interested in true crime or these kind of stories. So today is Wednesday, so Friday I will be back with the case of the week. As usual, I still haven't figured out what case I'm going to work on yet, but I will get it figured out before Friday, and I will get it uploaded sometime early afternoon or late afternoon, early evening on Friday. So until then, until next time, please do take care of yourselves. Be careful out there. Take care of each other. That's the most important thing we can do in this world, is take care of our fellow human beings, so we can all make it through this life safely. And until next time, thank you once again for watching, and I will see you. Bye-bye.